Welcome, Guardians. Thank you for coming to my channel, Darby Up. Here we discuss all things Destiny, such as builds, guides, reviews, discussions, etc. My name is Darby, and today I want to show you my Voidwalker Sin build. Alright, Guardians, let's get right into the build. This is my Voidwalker Sin build. Of course, we're running the Voidwalker subclass for our Warlock. Our super of choice is going to be Nova Bomb Cataclysm. Hurl an explosive bolt of void light at a target, disintegrating those caught within the blast. The Nova Bomb travels slowly and seeks targets. Detonation shatter into smaller seeker projectiles. This is also known as the Slova Bomb. Guys, what this does is once you release your super, it travels and tracks your target of choice. Once it hits the target or you shoot it, it will shatter into smaller projectiles for that additional bonus of damage. I like to run a Healing Rift. This actually helps in with survivability with end-game or harder PvE content. Very useful and comes in clutch. I'm using Burst Glide and of course Pocket Singularity. This is our charge melee. You launch an unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it is near a target, pushing them away from the blast and making them volatile. When you make an enemy volatile, what this means is that the target is afflicted with an unstable void energy that will explode upon taking additional damage. Volatile is key to this build, Guardians. What we like to use, of course, are all void weapons if possible. When your enemies become volatile, using your void weapons will make additional explosions very great in ad clear. Grenade of choice, I like to use Vortex Grenade. Now I do know Vortex Grenade got a little bit of a stealth nerf this season 17, but I still like to use it because of the continuous damage and a good widespread area of effect. Also, I like to use Scatter Grenade. Scatter Grenades are also great in this build because they can also be overcharged with our aspects that we're using. And with the Scatter Grenade, it is very, very good as well as the Vortex. Aspects running this season, Chaos Accelerant. What this does, like I said, it allows you to overcharge your grenades and makes them deadlier and more effective. For our Vortex Grenade, it increases the size and linger duration of the vortex. Now if you run the Scatter Grenade, it has submunitions that track to nearby targets. All this is saying is when you overcharge your Scatter Grenade and then you throw it, it will track to your targets. Also with Chaos Accelerant, you get one fragment slot. We are also running Feed the Void. Feed the Void is when you defeat a target with a void ability, you activate Devour. While Devour is active, Final Blows restore health and extend Devour. What Devour is when you defeat your enemies with your void ability, whether it be your super, your melee, your grenades, you proc Devour. What Devour does is when these enemies are defeated, you gain health regeneration. You full health regeneration. So if you're in combat and you are close to being downed and you have Devour procced, use any of your abilities on preferably a red bar. They can be dropped very easily, and voila, full health back. This also helps with our survivability and our harder PvE in-game content. And with Feed the Void, you get 2 fragment slots. So we are running 3 fragments, and my 3 fragments of choice are going to be Echo of Expulsion. Void ability Final Blows cause targets to explode. So when you use your melee or grenade and once your enemies are defeated, that causes them to explode, and if they're in a group of enemies, this will help with additional ad clear capabilities. Next is Echo of Undermining. Your void grenades weaken targets. Now I know it says we have a negative 20 discipline in this fragment, but don't worry about that. With our exotic armor piece of choice we're using, this totally will negate that minus 20 discipline. And our last fragment is Echo of Instability. Defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your void weapons. This fragment is key, Guardians. What we want are volatile rounds. When we get those volatile rounds, we make our enemies volatile. Once they are defeated, they will cause an explosion, get more of that ad clearing capability, clears them out very quickly. And now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the build. What weapons I am running are the Riptide Fusion Rifle. The reason I like to run the Riptide Fusion Rifle is the Fusion Rifle is great against those yellow bar elites and for boss damage, or those little harder enemies to hit. With the rapid fire frame, as it says in the name, you're able to rapidly fire each burst with this Fusion Rifle. It comes in very handy. Now the two perks that I have that make this very good is Stats for All. Hitting 3 separate targets increases weapon handling, stability, reload, and range for moderate duration. Keywording here is hitting 3 separate targets. Not defeating, but just hitting them. You'll get a bonus to all your handling, stability, and reload and range. Golden Tricorn. Final blows with this weapon grant bonus damage. While this buff is active, grenade or melee kills of the same damage type greatly increase its damage and duration. It's a great perk to have when you are running the exact same subclass as the damage elemental type of the weapon. Now that's where our downfall is with this weapon, is since it is a stasis elemental damage, but I'm a void subclass, Golden Tricorn really doesn't help a whole lot in this situation. But I still like to run this Fusion Rifle just for the sheer damage output. And we're to the exotic weapon of choice for this build is the Graviton Lance. Graviton Lance is the exotic pulse rifle of choice due to its 2 perks of, first, Cosmology. Kills with this weapon cause enemy targets to detonate and spawn void projectiles that track targets. So the nice thing about this is once you defeat an enemy with this weapon, that enemy will explode and cause these little small void projectiles to come out and seek out surrounding enemies. Very handy in ad clear. This build is meant for ad clearing, guys. You will put out so much DPS on the ads, and you can put out a moderate bit of damage against boss enemies as well. And then our intrinsic perk, Black Hole. Second shot of a burst rips a hole through space-time, doing high damage and recoil with no fall off. What this does is it allows our weapon to have high damage with that second burst of the pulse rifle. It gives us greater range, so we can be hitting ads from further back and still getting that same amount of damage as if we were closer. And in my heavy slot, I'm running the Red Herring rocket launcher. It is a void rocket launcher that was released with the Witch Queen expansion. I really like this rocket launcher, guys, because of the 2 perks I have on it of Killing Wind. Final blows grant increased mobility, weapon range, and handling for short duration. And now Golden Tricorn. We discussed this earlier with the Riptide Fusion Rifle, but with Golden Tricorn on this void rocket launcher, very, very nice in a high damage output against pretty much any type of enemies you will come across. Now we're going to the exotic armor of choice for this build, Nezarec Sin. With Nezarec Sin, I do like to run a solar affinity on it. But what makes this armor piece the piece you want in this build is Abyssal Extractors. Void damage kills, increase ability, energy recharge rate. So what this does is when you get kills wearing this armor piece, it will allow you to recharge your abilities that much faster. So your supers will recharge faster, your grenades will recharge faster, your melee recharge faster, and of course your class ability will recharge faster. What this does is, now if you notice, our grenades for our fragment slot we use gave us a -20 discipline. This armor piece almost negates that, so that you really don't see that negative hit your stats that hard. The armor mods I like to run on this are a resilience mod. Now guys, with the release of this Season 17, resilience has went through the roof. This is the mod you want to have. Resilience, if you get 100% resilience, you will gain a 40% damage reduction. Guys, this is huge in in-game PvE content. Makes it increases your survivability and makes it that much harder for you to be killed. Next, I like to run Ashes to Assets. Gain bonus super energy on grenade kill. Then I like to run Harmonic Siphon. Rapid weapon final blows with damage matching your subclass creates an orb of power. And to add to our survivability, I also like to run Well of Life. Picking up a solar elemental well grants increased regeneration for a short period of time. This is also very useful in keeping us up and increasing our survivability. For the gauntlets, I like to run, of course, a Solar Affinity with another Resilience mod and Impact Induction. Causing damage with melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. So when you defeat enemies with your melee, you get a faster cooldown of your grenade recharge. Guys, this build is central. We are looking to just be able to spam our abilities. We want to get those back quicker, less cooldown. This build is what it's for. Also, I like to run Overload rounds. In this seasonal artifact mod, this allows you to fire from your equipped auto rifles and submachine guns. Grants bullets that stun combatants, delaying ability, energy regeneration, and lowering combatant damage output. Strong against Overload champions. I like to run this when I'm in Grandmaster Nightfalls and anything of higher PvE in-game content. Bountiful Wells. Elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have. What this mod does is it allows you to spawn more of those elemental wells on your final blows. Instead of one mod, you'll get 2 or 3. Comes in very handy in those regeneration skills. For the chest, another Solar Affinity with another Resilience mod. But we're also running from the seasonal artifact the Armor of the Dying Star. Reduces incoming solar damage and void damage from combatants. Now I've seen others like to run a double Armor of the Dying Star, but I like to run, besides another Armor of the Dying Star, is a Concussive Dampener. It reduces incoming area of effect damage from combatants. Our next mod is Well of Ordnance. Picking up a solar elemental well grants you additional grenade energy. Multiple copies of this mod increases the effect. So the key, again guys, is we are looking for very short cooldown of our abilities. When everything comes together in this build, your abilities almost come back instantly. If not instantly, very, very short cooldown periods. For our legs, changing it up a little bit, we have a Void Affinity. Now, the reason I'm running a Void Affinity is because I'm using the mod Better Already. Your health begins to regenerate immediately after picking up an orb of power. Now, if you remember, in Nazareth Sin, we have Harmonic Siphon, which with those weapon final blows, you generate that orb of power. When you pick up that orb of power, you start to regenerate that health. So we are again increasing our survivability. Also like to run a Rocket Launcher Scavenger. Rocket launchers get bonus reserves from picking up heavy ammo. And lastly, I like to run Elemental Ordnance. Defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns elemental wells that match your subclass. So this is great for when you throw that grenade. I want you to yeet these grenades any chance you possibly get. Don't know what to do, throw a grenade. Don't know if you can get out of the situation, throw a grenade. Defeating these combatants with the grenade will grant that elemental well. And again, quick cooldowns for all your abilities. And lastly, for class armor, I'm running Solar Affinity with, you guessed it, a Resilience mod. And I'm also running Double Bomber. Reduce grenade cooldown when using your class ability. So with me running that Healing Rift, if I use my Healing Rift, then it will cause my grenades to cool down even faster. Like I said, when everything synergizes so well in this build, your skills, abilities will come back so much quicker. You'll be amazed at how quick they come back. And then Explosive Wellmaker. Rapidly defeating combatants with explosive damage spawns a solar elemental well. So when you use your super, your Nova Bomb, grenades, Pocket Singularity, your charge melee, when these combatants detonate, they will drop that solar elemental well. We pick up that well. We're all about that regeneration, guys. So that is my Voidwalker Sin build. I would like to see you put your own spin on this build. See what other combinations you can come up with. Don't copy and paste from me. I'd like to see what everyone else has out there. If you liked the video, please subscribe, send me a like, and stay tuned for the next video. Stay safe out there, Guardians.